welcome back to Ascending with Asha and Ashley. This is a collective coffee. We are going to talk about the state of the United States right now. I think what's interesting and what we really need to pay attention to, especially if you are here in the United States, regardless of where, is that this genocide, yes, that's what it is. I wrote a paper back in 2000, it's for my master's. It's like one of the first papers I wrote. And we were learning about the border. We were in southern Arizona and we were in Mexico. Both sides, learning about the different cultures, learning about Border Patrol, all of that. Working alongside Todd Miller, who wrote Border Patrol Nation, among all these other books now at this point in time. And I wrote this paper called Genocide in the Homeland. For me, it was very easy as a genocide scholar to see how genocide was being carried out by the United States against Hispanic or brown folks, indigenous folks, all of the brown folks in that area. Now, there's a lot of distinctions that need to be made when we think about the way the United States works in terms of genocide. Because of the landmass of the United States, it is not going to be like what we're seeing in Palestine per se, right? Palestine is a tiny little area. It's 25 miles. Israel has been pushing Palestinians to Gaza to enact the ability to, control the population and control the land very easily, right? Here in the United States, it's not like that. The land mass is ginormous, so it's going to look different. The border patrol, ICE, it's seemingly what are happening, or like what's making this happen. A couple things happened this week. First, the Haitians. There were a bunch of Haitians. This reminds me of Clueless, if you've never seen that movie. Whatever, anyway. A little later for the topic, but that was back in the 90s that Cher made that speech about the Haitian, well, she calls them the Haitians. The Haitians got protection from the United States. More than likely, what usually happens when the United States opens the borders to a foreign refuge or like some sort of citizens that need refuge, it's more than likely because the United States has backed a militia that has caused destabilization in the home country of these folks, right? So people come here, right? That's why this is the melting pot. I mean, that's one of the reasons. The United States has over 4,000 military bases around the world. I'm going to keep reminding you that. There's only 192 countries in the world, so that's a gross statistic, right? Over militarization of the entire planet. So anyway, what this is going to look like for the United States, now there's a lot of different fronts happening, but what just passed this week was the Big Beautiful Bill. Have I read it? No, I don't care that much. I know it's a bunch of bullshit. They made a ton of funding from all public services like Medicaid, Head Start, the public school system, special education, food stamps, EBT, I mean that's the same thing, DDD, right? Like I was on the track to get Niall hooked up with DDD. I don't even think I'm going to follow through with that. I think it's too much of a risk. So as a parent, whatever you're navigating, do what's best for your kids, right? Or what you feel is best, because obviously the government doesn't have your, life in any sort of favor. Okay, so with the Big Beautiful Bill, there was a whole lot of stuff. They're going to be able to drill all of these public lands. These public lands are now going to be sold to the highest bidder, right? So we're talking like national park lands, okay? Where I bought land is right outside of a national park, the Petrified Forest, and right underneath the Navajo Reservation. And so it's going to be interesting to see that. But anyway, that's just my personal. So how are you impacted, right? Because this is so big. Another thing that happened this week, was the opening, well, I don't think it's open yet, but the grand opening of a, regardless if it's open or not, there was a development of a concentration camp called Alligator Alcatraz. That's, yes, what the admin is calling it. And so anyway, with the Haitians losing their protections, that's black folks, okay? So now the target, the bullseye, just got larger for these bounty hunters. What do you mean bounty hunters? Well, it came out a couple weeks ago. There was a whistleblower from one of their families that these people in Los Angeles that are rounding people up, yes, might work for ICE, but they are hired for bounty hunting. There's about $1,000 to $1,500 price tag on everyone's head that they collect. What also came out this week was that a lot of these folks who are being transported from the United States after they've been rounded up are being put on cargo planes. And people came out this week and were like, hey, why are they doing cargo planes? Because you can like open the cargo chute door thing mid-flight. So then there were bodies that washed up, I think it was in Spain, in Europe, that were shackled and handcuffed. So people are making this connection. Also, people have been watching the flight logs. Flight logs are public information. I don't know how to do that, but a lot of people do. Like during the Super Bowl, people watch like celebrities' flights and stuff. So people have been watching these cargo planes go out into the ocean and come back in, but like not reaching a destination. So there's been speculation followed by bodies to back up the speculation that people are being dropped alive, okay? I saw a historian talking about Argentina yesterday. I don't know the exact facts, but this is something that Argentina did at one point in time, took these flights, drugged people, and then dropped them into the ocean to die, okay? So we have those things happening. So we've got Alligator Alcatraz, which is it's in the Everglades. It's surrounded by swamps. So Trump yesterday made a visit there and was talking about how the owners, the farm owners this is like practice for slavery. I don't mean to yawn. So they're like rounding people up. They're rounding up workforce to, I guess, put into these camps for labor and also for other things. A reminder that we're only 6 months into this presidency. Okay. So yeah, over 60 bodies have washed up on shores, shackled and handcuffed, right? Thousands of people are being rounded up. I don't know. This is all genocide, right? The women, I did hear a woman from inside the detention centers, a Hispanic woman, saying that they were being forcibly given hysterectomies, which is something the United States always does to black and brown women in incarceration. It's very well known. So that's why I want to talk about this. So when you forcibly take a woman's reproductive organs, that's a form of eugenics. Eugenics is to make like a master race, right? Like that's the ultimate goal of white folks. It's to, like, the white people on the planet are the minority, right? The minority of the entire planet. So that's why they're going so hard, right? So we need to fight back, okay? These people are fucking monsters, okay? White supremacists are not good people. One of the reasons I left my family after trying for a really long time to get them to give a fuck was that I got to a point of knowing that I was no longer safe even being in communication with them because white people sell each other out. So, I mean, if you're a person of color on my channel, you already know this. You already know, like, what white people you find safe and what white people you don't. But I saw a woman from, her ethnicity was Indian, like from India, but she's from the United States. And she shared a story yesterday about how she had a run-in with a white woman who said something to her that she was not expecting, and it was along the lines of, where are you from? And when she told her she was from New Jersey, she was like, no, where are you from? Like, talking about her ethnicity. And the white woman then said, don't worry, I'm not one of those, I won't report you. To a lifelong resident of the United States, right? The United States has all ethnicities, all people, right? I just told you a large portion of why people have to come to the United States. Again, it's more than likely because the United States has backed some sort of militia to destabilize the other countries. So what's happening now is, remember, we've talked about proximity to whiteness. So a lot of folks who are not white will feel safer with proximity to whiteness. Latinos, MAGA, Latinos for Trump, are like a good example of this, right? Like, thinking that your proximity to this, choosing this, is going to keep you safe, right? Even if it goes against your people, your lineage, your blood, your, whatever. So genocide in the United States is happening at all of these different levels, not to mention the fires or the natural disasters. That's the part of the world I'm in right now. It's fire season. And there's a large fire in Navajo Nation, right? I just shared that Navajo Nation's large, though. It spans like 4 states. So like the reservations cross the man-made borders, right? Like I always say this wrong, the Tohono Nation, those are the folks that are on like the Mexican-American border. So like the border crossed their indigenous land. So some of them live on one side, some of them live on the other side, right? But those folks are indigenous to both sides of that land. The border crosses their land, right? So that's a good example of thinking about native reservations here in the United States. Reservations are, because of treaties and a lot of different, what's the word for this? I guess treaties is the best word because that's what they're called. There were treaties between the United States government and the native folks in this country after years of genocide that gave them little plots of land, right? So there's a lot of conversation about that too. So like the main tenets of genocide are land, eugenics, slavery, death, control, obedience, right? Things like that. So violence, the violence that we're experiencing at this level are insane. So I need you to understand that yes, there's a lot going on, and yes, you can't necessarily hold space for everything unless you've really conditioned yourself to be able to, right? Like, I've been studying genocide for a very long time because it's always fascinated me. So at this point in time, I'm like, okay, I see all of these things happening. And that's the difference that I think what's happening in Palestine is very obviously genocide, but again, you still have people calling it something else, right? With the bombs. Now, bombs haven't started dropping here in the United States. My guess is that they probably will at one point or another. Whether they are initiated here by Israel. Israel has been talking about a false flag. We've been talking about that. Or the United States perpetrates it and then blames it on someone else, needing a scapegoat for movement into war. So not only we're at such an incredible moment in history, okay, that yes, can feel exhausting, but pay attention. Like, you're here on the planet for a reason. How can you make the world a better place, right? You don't need to know everything about everything. But you do need to be attached to your heart center, right? You need to be able to feel. You need to be able to keep your apathy in check, right? There's a very fine line between completely apathetic and taking on, everything, right? Too much empathy and apathy. There's a balance that's needed there, and there's also a balance between ignorance and apathy, right? Don't ignore what's happening. just because it hasn't happened to you yet, just because you're not the target, I mean, the target is moving. That's what I'm saying. And it's moving and it's getting larger and larger and larger. So just because you're not a part of it yet doesn't mean that you're not going to be, right? And everyone wants to talk about Nazi Germany and shit. But yeah, Hitler did this too. He took disabled folks, gay folks, Jewish folks, obviously. But there were a lot of other fucking people involved in that 6 million death toll, okay? Besides just Jewish folks. The Zionists have used that as their scapegoat and reasoning why, you know, we deserve this land, going to the Palestinians, right? So be aware of what's happening. I mean, it's the same fucking playbook from history. It's just that we're alive for it, okay? And we have videos of it happening real time, so that's exhausting. This is a part of psychological warfare when they do so many things at once on different fronts. It makes people get into fight or flight. It makes people freak out. So take care of yourself. Again, remembering that line between ignorance and apathy, and, you know, part of your humanity is having empathy. So be careful there. So it's on different fronts. There's different targets, right? So with the Haitians, losing their protective custody or protective rights, then the target now is for black folks in addition to brown folks, okay? So with Hispanic folks being targeted, we know that the white supremacists are not making distinctions between, you know, country of origin versus, you know, Native American, right? We've seen this. So that's the thing with the reservations. A lot of reservations are going up in flames. This is happening here in the United States and in Canada. I told you way back when, like, I think it was probably October 8th of 2023 when I realized what was happening, that indigenous folks across the world were going to be targeted by these entities. This is a continued genocide, right? The one that has been trying to be carried out for years, like centuries, okay? So we know who the enemy is. We know who, you know, that's the thing, is that we all have a common enemy. Unless you are a white supremacist or a Zionist or a neo-Nazi, they think that the enemy is people of color because they know that they have shrimp dicks and that they are the minority, and they believe that if they give up power, then they're going to be treated the way that they treated people, right? Which, what I believe is that yes, you should. Absolutely, that's the law of karma. So I want us to remember that with this urgency, with this push at a global scale, okay, because Iran is an indigenous country as well, right? A lot of the countries in the Middle East are indigenous, okay? The white folks in the Middle East are not, right? So black and brown folks over the entire world are being targeted by these entities, okay? At a world scale, I don't know enough about Asia to talk about that, but I do know that China's stance against the United States is, hey, we've been here for 5,000 years, and we're gonna be here 5,000 years after you guys, after the empire of the United States of America dissipates. So all that to say is, if the countries that are in an alliance with China, I would say, are BRICS, right? BRICS is the new currency that some countries want to use to destabilize and not use the American US dollar as the standard for currency, right? The United States dollar is not backed by gold. It hasn't been since probably the 30s, but for sure since the 1979 when the Federal Reserve was established. What that means is that each dollar used to have gold backing, but there's no, right now it's just an invisible market, which is why these motherfuckers are able to, you know, print trillions of dollars, you know, be trillions of dollars in debt, right? Like what kind of numbers are those, right? It's just money is made up the way that currency works. It's not backed by anything. The US dollar is not. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, for sure, and there have been others, like other African countries that have signed on with BRICS to reclaim currency and again destabilize the US dollar as the standard for the world. Okay. How did that happen? Again, 4,000 military bases and backed militias across the globe. That's how that happened. That's how the United States got the US dollar, which isn't backed by anything, to be the standard of whatever. Okay, my baby's awake, so I just want you to pay attention to the world. There's a lot going on. It is your responsibility as a live person with a consciousness to pay attention and to do what you can to make the world a better place. I hope this helps you understand. I'm not trying to put alarm, but these are we need to be alarmed. Okay, bye. Have a good day.